Tonight, a community on edge after 4 college students were brutally stabbed to death. Police are searching for answers in the wake of a shocking quadruple murder near the University of Idaho. The coroner calling the scene one of the most gruesome she's ever witnessed. What we're learning about the lives lost and the new details on the investigation coming in this hour. Also breaking tonight, Republicans take the House. NBC News now projecting the GOP has won enough seats to take control. We'll have full analysis. Training, exercise, horror, an SUV barreling into a group of recruits out on a run in Los Angeles, injuring at least 25 of them. What investigators are revealing about the frightening accident. Missile misfire, the deadly explosion in Poland now blamed on a Ukrainian air defense missile, not on Russia as initially feared. But tonight, why NATO is still pointing the finger at Vladimir Putin. Plus, neighborhood rocked. The dramatic explosion caught on camera. What residents say a maintenance worker was doing in that house moments before the blast. And Ticketmaster turmoil, the site crashing as swarms of Taylor Swift fans tried to snag tickets for her new tour. The glitch reigniting a debate fans know all too well. So is it time to break up the monopoly on live music? Top story starts right now. Good evening. I'm Savannah Sellers in for Tom. A lot of news to get to tonight, and we begin top story with that gruesome scene in Idaho. A community now desperate for answers after the shocking murders of these 4 young adults, all of them students at the University of Idaho. The 4 friends were part of a tight-knit group. This photo was posted just hours before their deaths on Sunday. Investigators are still carefully combing through the crime scene. Now, no arrest has been made yet, and the coroner called what she saw on the other side of those walls one of the most gruesome sights of her career. A makeshift memorial is growing on campus tonight, and students are expected to gather for a vigil later this evening. And police there are giving an update as we speak. Here's what we just heard.
Investigators are working to follow up on all leads and to identify a person of interest. Based on details at the scene, we believe this was an isolated, targeted attack on our victims. We do not have a suspect at this time, and that individual is still out there.
Let's get right to NBC's Gotti Schwartz, who's been following all of these developments closely. Hey, Gotti, what's the latest?
Hey, Savannah. Yeah, we're monitoring this press conference that just started moments ago. Investigators finally sharing some late-breaking details. In that press conference, they said they still do not have a suspect in custody. They say that there was no sign of forced entry into that home. And, Savannah, they also say that there were 2 other roommates inside that home that are alive, but they haven't said what they saw or what happened or what they may have said to police when they encountered them when they showed up at the house the next day. So limited answers for a community that up until now has been left in the dark.
Tonight in Moscow, Idaho, pain, frustration, and fear after the gruesome massacre of 4 University of Idaho students. The lack of answers over the deadly events that happened inside this home have caused many to pack up and get out of town. Even the sister of one of the victims, Kaylee Gonzalez, telling us if Kaylee was still alive, she'd want her to leave.
If my sister was still in Moscow, I would tell her to come home.
Kaylee and her 3 friends were killed just hours after they took this picture, the coroner describing the murders as some of the most gruesome she'd ever seen. Kaylee was extremely close with the other victims, friends with Madison Mogan since the 6th grade, the 2 living with 20-year-old Xana Kernodle, who was dating 20-year-old Ethan Chapin. His parents say they were told their son was stabbed to death. Ethan, a triplet who they had just visited.
As we pulled out of Moscow, we literally were like, we've done it. We've literally done it as parents. If everybody was like Ethan Chapin in this world, it would be a better place.
Now a college town shattered and left with more questions in their unspeakable grief.
Gotti, also, we know the FBI is now involved in this investigation. What does that signal?
Well, we know the FBI is involved in assisting in this investigation. They haven't taken the lead on this investigation, so we believe it's to process leads. Right now, they say they are looking at anyone and everyone. But again, police are saying right now they don't have anybody in custody. They are asking the community for any possible tips on what may have happened that night. But police, at this point, not even confirming how those 4 students were killed. So this community is still very much terrified, knowing that this mass murder is still out there. Back to you, Savannah.
Absolutely scary and, of course, heartbreaking. Gadi Schwartz, thank you so much. Now, next tonight, also in Los Angeles, a horrific wrong-way driving accident. 25 law enforcement recruits injured, 5 in critical condition. Authorities now investigating the driver. Nyla Charles has the latest details.
This Los Angeles neighborhood instantly turning into chaos. Ambulances and rescue teams swarming to the scene. 5 Southern California law enforcement recruits cling to life tonight. Officials say 25 are injured, hit by a wrong-way driver while running on the street during training. The others, as many as 50, luckily saved by a traffic light that the driver ran into.
It's a tragic event, very traumatic for all people involved. 2 families are the ones that are most critical. We airlifted the families to get them to the hospital so they could visit their loved one.
Those 5 with the most severe injuries now in critical condition, some suffering head trauma, others much worse.
We have broken bones. We've had some loss of limb, for example. Those are the severe range of injuries. These are life-threatening injuries.
Early morning jogs are a routine part of the 22-week LA County Sheriff's Department Academy. Officials say a field sobriety test found the 22-year-old driver had no alcohol in his system. He was detained by authorities who say he's cooperating.
It looks like it's an accident, a horrific accident, but we can't know that for sure until the CHP does their investigation and reaches a conclusion based on all the evidence they still have yet to gather.
Officials say the driver was going about 35 miles per hour. There were no skid marks at the scene, which suggests the driver didn't brake. That will be an important detail as investigators look into the cause of the crash and a possible motive. Back to you.
Nyla, thank you so much. Now to breaking news as we come on the air. NBC News can now project that Republicans will take control of the House of Representatives. The GOP set to hold a razor-thin majority over Democrats. This as President Trump kicks off the official start of the 2024 election. Announcing his 3rd run for the White House, the former president saying, quote, America's comeback starts right now. But many in the Republican Party are saying it's time to move on. Let's go to NBC News senior congressional correspondent Garrett Hake with the latest.
Tonight, new signs of Republican divisions after former President Trump became the first declared candidate of the 2024 presidential election.
In order to make America great and glorious again, I am tonight announcing my candidacy for President of the United States.
Many Republicans showing support.
I like his policies. I like how tough he is.
So many people are attracted to this guy and how he fights for this country.
But some former allies panning his return.
I think he's the only Republican who could lose.
Former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo tweeting, "We need leaders who are looking forward, not staring in the rearview mirror, claiming victimhood." Mr. Trump making his announcement at Mar-a-Lago, taking aim at his successor.
Now we are a nation in decline. We are a failing nation. For millions of Americans, the past 2 years under Joe Biden have been a time of pain, hardship, anxiety, and despair.
Mr. Trump surrounded by supporters, but notably absent last night, daughter Ivanka, who had been a key advisor when Mr. Trump was in the White House. Ivanka Trump writing, "While I will always love and support my father, going forward, I will do so outside the political arena." The former president impeached twice, including for his role in stoking the January 6th attack on the Capitol, announcing his run just as some Republicans blame his hand-picked candidates for underperforming in the midterms, but insisting his movement can make a comeback.
Just as I promised in 2016, I am your voice.
But Mr. Trump could face Republican competition, including from Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, coming off his landslide re-election victory. Tonight, DeSantis brushing off talk of a Republican civil war.
Now, look, I think we just finished this election. OK, people just need to chill out a little bit on some of this stuff.
On Capitol Hill, Republican leaders in both chambers dodging questions about 2024.
Do you support him for running as president?
The way I'm going to go into this presidential primary season is to stay out of it. I don't have a dog in that fight.
Democrats now know they've got a lot of work to do in this lame duck session, passing priorities that might otherwise fail to reach the president's desk with Republicans in control of the House. Watch for action on things like COVID funding and additional resources for Ukraine. Also now the spotlight shifts to Kevin McCarthy. His conference voted to make him their nominee to be Speaker of the House. But can he get the 218 votes he needs in the 7 weeks he has to do it before that vote on the floor?
All right, NBC's Garrett Haake, thank you so much. Now, President Trump's big announcement is furthering the rift in the Republican Party, all happening, of course, on the heels of disappointing midterm election results for Republicans. So what will a third Trump candidacy mean for the GOP and the country? I want to bring in our panel tonight. We have NBC News political analyst and Republican strategist Susan Del Percio and Democratic strategist Adrian Elrod. Thank you both for joining us. Susan's here in studio, and Susan, I'll begin with you, and I want to get your reaction to former President Trump's announcements here. Of course, I mean, he hit on a lot of these same themes that Republicans were hitting on as we head into the midterm elections. But then that big red wave did not materialize, some pointing fingers at President Trump. And here he is just days after. What's your takeaway on that?
Well, Donald Trump focused on the main issues that he always focuses on. Me, myself, and I. That's all Donald Trump cares about is himself. He's never put the Republican Party as a priority. It's been a vehicle for him to use to run for office and raise money. But it's never been about how do we grow the party or how is the party successful in the midterms. The midterms were just about him. So when he announced yesterday with a whole slew of losses, it's no wonder why people were headed for the exits, even though security guards were trying to prevent them from doing so.
Yeah, that was something we saw circulating quite a bit today on the internet. Adrian, I want to bring you in here now and get your thoughts on this and sort of what it means and how you think Democrats should approach this.
Yeah, look, I think President Biden's tone when he was asked yesterday about former President Trump running and announcing his bid for president was pitch perfect. You know, he was on the global stage. He was traveling, representing the United States abroad, and just sort of passed it off as saying, yeah, good for him. I'm here focusing on American interests abroad. I think that's where the White House is right now. And look, Trump is not as strong as he was. I mean, that's just the bottom line. 2016, I don't think I was on Hillary Clinton's campaign. We certainly did not think at the very beginning of the primary that he would be the ultimate nominee. So you can never underestimate him, but he is severely weakened, especially coming on the heels of the midterms in 2022, where he did not have a lot of successes. In fact, in the 10 major swing states that President Biden won, that will be ultimately swing states in 2024, of the 16 endorsed candidates, Savannah, that he endorsed, only 2 of them won. That is not a great track record. He has really lost a lot of support over the last 10 to 12 months. And I think even among his base, the hardcore MAGA base, a lot of them are sort of looking for their next MAGA candidate. You know, a lot of them have been sort of looking for that type of extremist right candidate. Donald Trump came along. They grasped onto him.
Well, looks like we're having some technical difficulties there.
But now just running object next to them, and I think they're looking at him now as somebody who doesn't have a good track record.
Absolutely. Sorry, you're breaking up just a little bit, freezing on us there, but maybe we'll be able to get you back a little bit clearer in just a moment. But Susan, luckily, is here in studio. No tech issues, no Zoom here. I also want to, of course, let's touch back now, moving off of President Trump onto this breaking news here with what Republicans, just as we're coming on the air, we understand they win the House. Let's talk about that, when them not having the Senate. What's your big takeaway there? What do you think that means we're going to see moving forward?
Oh, probably nothing moving forward. We'll see nothing. We'll see gridlock in Washington, not surprising. But, you know, even though it doesn't come up often, nor does it show in his poll numbers, President Biden got a lot of stuff done in those first 2 years. And here's what Republicans are either going to have to try and take credit for or fight, is that prescription drugs for seniors, while they tried to talk about it in 2022, it will be a reality in 2023. And the Democrats get to hang their hats on that. While they talk about infrastructure, there were no shovels on the ground. But by 2023, there sure will be. So there's some momentum there for Democrats. Republicans are going to be fighting among themselves. And, you know, it looks like, you know, it will be Speaker Kevin McCarthy, although nothing's written in stone. But let me tell you this, Kevin McCarthy is no Nancy Pelosi, and I don't think he'll be able to manage a conference with so few votes that he has to kind of play with. I think it'll be probably 3. So he needs every vote he can get, or otherwise his agenda goes down the drain.
Yeah, absolutely. I also want to talk about what we saw in the Senate today. I mean, longtime GOP Senate leader Mitch McConnell. I also want to hear what you think in terms of his involvement here with former President Trump announcing his run. But he survives this challenge from Senator Rick Scott today. I mean, it is worth noting, though, 10 Republicans voted for Scott. What do you think this is going to look like here? Do you think that they'll support McConnell as minority leader, or does he have a tough road ahead?
Oh, I think they'll support it. The majority will, like today, they will continue to support Mitch McConnell for minority leader. First of all, it's not the best job. You're the minority leader. And the other thing is I wouldn't be so surprised to see Mitch McConnell leaving before even 2024 and maybe taking some parting shots at those who challenged him and, more importantly, the former president of the United States on some of what he did to the Senate, because I think Mitch McConnell hung around as long as he did because he wanted to be majority leader. That's no longer in the cards.
Absolutely. That's a great point. Also, he said there, we heard him say, I'm staying out of it. We'll see how long that lasts, right? Adrian, I think we've got you back with a little bit better of a connection, hopefully, and I do want to give you one last question. You know, right? The trouble with Zoom. I want to ask you about abortion. I mean, it's one of the biggest motivators for Democrats this year. What should the White House be focusing on as it looks ahead to 2024 while facing a divided Congress when it comes to an issue like that? Are they going to be able to get anything done?
Yeah, I think the Republicans are going to have to work across the aisle. That's just the plain and simple truth, because they're the ones who are in the losing situation. They're the ones who have to try to gain more votes to do well in 2024. But I think in terms of the White House, they've got to focus on getting codifying Roe. You know, I know President Biden said he's not sure if he has the votes a couple of days ago, but I think they need to work very hard to try to get those votes, because to your point, Savannah, we're looking at a 6-3 Supreme Court that is not exactly on the side of the majority of the American people for the foreseeable future. This is not a 2-term, deal or a 1-term deal. This is the foreseeable future. We could be in this situation for 20, 25 years. So, I think the White House is going to use their muscle and do everything they can to make sure Roe is codified.
Adrian and Susan, thank you both so much for joining us tonight to discuss all this breaking news. Good to see you. Turning overseas now to that deadly explosion in Poland. The blast sparking fears the war in Ukraine had spilled into a NATO country. However, the Polish president now saying the strike was most likely unintentional and not launched by Russia. Richard Engel is on the ground in Ukraine.
It was a crisis that never was. The Polish president announcing today that it was not Russia, after all, that fired a missile which landed in Poland yesterday, killing at least 2 people. Instead, it was probably a misfire by Ukrainian air defenses, dramatically easing tensions after NATO allies scrambled overnight. President Biden holding an emergency meeting at the G7 as allegations swirled that Russia had attacked NATO, potentially widening the war. Poland is a NATO member. Later, President Biden played down the possibility of Russian involvement.
It's unlikely in the minds of the trajectory that it was fired from Russia.
Today, NATO said the fatal accident was not Ukraine's fault, blaming Russia because Ukraine was only firing its missile defenses after Russia launched airstrikes targeting infrastructure across Ukraine, plunging large parts of the country into darkness. Immediately after the explosion in Poland, Ukraine said Russia was responsible. And tonight, Ukraine's President Zelensky insisting it was not our missile, it was not our missile strike. Russia says its enemies were trying to whip up hysteria with false, unfounded accusations. Moscow did not mention its airstrikes, including against Kyiv, which appear to be revenge for the loss of the city of Kherson. The area is still exposed to Russian artillery and sniper fire.
This is as close as we can get. Russian troops have pulled back to the far banks of this river, just a few hundred yards away. They say that in modern war there aren't any front lines anymore. Here, there certainly are, and that's it.
The Ukrainians collapsed the bridge to ensure the Russians don't come back.
After the explosion in Poland, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, General Milley, says that he was unable to reach his Russian counterpart. Ultimately, this proved not to be a major crisis, more of a fire drill. But it did expose how quickly things can escalate and how those critical lines of communication can break down.
All right, Richard Engel, thank you so much. And for more analysis, I want to bring in Lieutenant General Stephen Twitty. He's the former deputy commander of the United Nations European Command and an NBC News military analyst. Lieutenant General, thank you so much for coming on Top Story tonight. So, I mean, let's talk through both sides here. And I like the way that Richard just put that. It ultimately wasn't this fire drill, but I do want to know what you think is next. I mean, it's looking like it's not an attack by Russia, but likely the result of a Ukrainian air defense missile that unfortunately landed in Poland. But then we do have Ukrainian Ukrainian President Zelensky, of course, as we just heard in that piece, saying he has no doubt it was not caused by a Ukrainian missile. What does that mean NATO's next move is?
Yeah, look, Savannah, war can be very chaotic. And certainly yesterday, with the Russians firing over 100 missiles across Ukraine, it was very chaotic. And so you had missiles coming in from Russia, and you had the Ukrainians' air defense systems trying to counter those missiles. And they did a pretty good, successful job attacking many of those missiles. And we don't know yet whether or not the strike that occurred, probably an errant round, struck a Russian missile, and it fell into Poland. That is what the narrative is right now. But what I think we should all do is let the Polish work out the investigative team. There will be U.S. folks that's going to link up with the Poles in order to assist. And let's run through the investigation, get the facts, and then we can determine the facts and move from there. But the way I see it is we got to get a good investigation going so we can determine what really happened here.
So with that investigation going and kind of putting a pin in what we know did or didn't happen or whose missile it was, I mean, the fact is this is the first time in 9 months of this war that any kind of weapon from Russians or Ukrainians has come down on a NATO country. Tell us what exactly it takes to trigger that Article 5 of NATO that says an attack against one is an attack against all. That's that big thing here where, you know, there's sort of these red lines in terms of which countries can get involved. But when it crosses into a NATO border, that's supposed to be one. So what does it take?
Well, what I will tell you is a couple of things here. Number one, it is a direct attack on a NATO country. And as you know, we have 30 NATO countries. Then it takes the NAC, the NATO Command Authority coming together, consensus vote to determine whether or not Article 5 needs to be invoked. And if all the countries agree to Article 5, then that right there starts the process of NATO going to war, whether it be Russia or whomever. But again, I think NATO has done a pretty good job here of really calming things down to ensure that they know the facts before they move forward with Article 4, which is Poland requesting that they come together to talk about what happened, up to Article 5, which is all-out war, one attack, an attack on one is attack on all.
Lieutenant General Twitty, this is something a lot of people are talking about. We appreciate you walking us through it tonight. Thank you. And now to the latest on the migrant crisis at the southern border. New numbers show the number of asylum seekers is not falling despite changes in border policies. And now Texas's governor is busing migrants to a new city. Gabe Gutierrez has the latest.
The latest bus to the northeast from Texas filled with migrants arrived this morning, this time to Philadelphia.
The kids are frightening. I mean, they're exhausted, they're tired.
Officials say a dehydrated 10-year-old girl on the bus had a high fever and was taken to a hospital.
We are prepared to deal with it, but it is absolutely inhumane that child had to go through that.
This man says he's from Nicaragua and came here to work. Texas Governor Greg Abbott, who easily won re-election last week, has organized the migrant bus trips for months to New York City, Washington, D.C., and Chicago.
Texas must continue our unprecedented efforts to secure our border.
He says his office added Philadelphia because of its sanctuary city status and to provide much-needed relief to Texas's overwhelmed border communities. In New York, where they've been receiving buses full of migrants for months, the city's mayor and comptroller butting heads after the comptroller requested a detailed accounting of how much it cost to build tent facilities to house the asylum seekers.
We're not going to hide the cost of anything. We're going to release all the numbers because he's part of the process. I brief him after every budget. Brad, let's work together, Brad.
As of early November, the Adams administration reported that 23,800 asylum seekers have arrived in New York City. The city's independent budget office estimating that it will cost about $600 million over the course of a year to provide migrants shelter and services. New data out this week shows the number of migrants apprehended at the southern border in October was more than 230,000. That's an increase from September, and just shy of the record highs in April and May. We recently visited the Arizona border.
This area alone is seeing hundreds of asylum seekers each night.
And now concerned that more could be on the way. On Tuesday, a federal judge blocked the government from continuing to use a Trump-era public health emergency measure known as Title 42 to quickly expel migrants.
It's quite possible that we could see some overcrowding. And that's partly because people who can't be expelled under Title 42 are now going to be subject to harsher policies than in the past, because immigration law is harsher than public health law, which Title 42 is. That the Biden administration is going to struggle to make sure that they have enough beds available so as to avoid overcrowding like we've seen in the past.
Gabe Gutierrez joins us in studio. So, Gabe, when will Title 42 actually end?
Well, Savannah, the Department of Homeland Security filed for a 5-week extension to prepare to bring Title 42 to an end. And today, a judge granted that request, but, quote, with great reluctance, the judge said. So now it will be several weeks before this ends, allowing the Biden administration to prepare for this. And as of now, it'll be December 21st when Title 42 officially ends, Savannah.
All right, Gabe Gutierrez, thank you so much. And we turn now to the forecast. Nearly 6 million people under winter alerts as paralyzing storms are set to hit the Northeast. Parts of western New York could see up to 4 feet of snow over the next few days. That lake effect snow is also hitting the Midwest. In Michigan, winter weather is leading to difficult travel conditions. Let's get right to NBC News meteorologist Bill Cairns, who joins us now in studio. Bill, always lovely to see you. So what is the latest on this track? Up to 4 feet?
The people in Buffalo don't freak out from snow. You know, they're like, oh, it's going to snow. Big deal. I'm still going to the market. This could be, even by Buffalo standards, what they're calling extreme winter weather. They're even telling people in the Buffalo area, you know, on Friday, no, you want to stay off the road, stay home, cancel all the schools, all that sort of stuff. So it's not just Buffalo. Other areas are going to get hit too, but you're going to see the highest totals from Buffalo southwards off of Lake Erie. Also coming off of Lake Ontario from Syracuse northwards, called that the Tug Hill Plateau, will get hit. And then tomorrow morning we'll get a good deal of snow coming off of Lake Michigan. We already are all the blue on the map. We already have the lake effect snow machine in place. So how much snow are the highest totals going to be? This area from Buffalo southwards, this is all 1 to 2 feet, and they're actually forecasting up to 4 feet in Buffalo. That's a real forecast.
How long is this cold expected to last, Bill?
That's the issue. Usually in November, we get like a cold outbreak, and then it kind of warms back up. And you're like, okay, I can rake my leaves now and get the rest of the stuff done. But this is really, we're locked into this cold weather pattern. Right now, we have wind chills of 8 in Fargo. Tomorrow morning, you're going to have negative wind chills in areas like Bismarck. Chicago is going to be in the teens for wind chills. And then even towards the weekend, we continue very cold from Minneapolis to Chicago. So to get the big lake effect snows, you need that cold air. We have it, and it's going to be in place for 5 days. It should be very interesting what happens as we go to Sunday. Buffalo Bills have a home football game.
Oh, my goodness.
And they could have 5 feet of snow to shovel out of that stadium.
Oh, my. All right. That's something to watch for. Bill, thank you so much. Great to have you with us. And stay warm, everybody. All right. Still ahead, New York City on high alert. Police have launched an investigation into a string of crimes, including the murders of 2 gay men. What we're hearing from the victims' families tonight. Plus, a neighborhood rocked in Indiana, what authorities say may have caused that blast. And move over PewDiePie. There's a new king of YouTube, the creator who now has more subscribers than anyone on the platform. Stay with us. We're back now with a string of attacks potentially targeting members of the LGBTQ community. At least 2 men were killed after their families say they were drugged and robbed while leaving gay bars in New York City. Now police are investigating if there's more than a dozen more victims. Tonight, a New York City community on high alert after police say a string of robberies and assaults in New York City may be connected to the mysterious deaths of 2 gay men earlier this year.
It's scary, actually, because it could happen to anyone.
It's scary. It's really, really scary.
Julio Ramirez and John Umberger were found dead shortly after leaving gay bars in the Hell's Kitchen neighborhood of Manhattan in 2 separate incidents. Their families telling NBC News their bank accounts were drained and that they may have been drugged. Now, after months of fear and outrage, both from the LGBTQ community and the men's families, the NYPD confirming their deaths are being investigated as part of, quote, several incidents where individuals have been victims of either robberies or assault.
Me cayó una llamada y me dijeron que era del hospital de Mount Sinai, de Manhattan, y que era el examinador. Y le digo, ¿qué pasó? No, tu hijo está muerto.
In April, 25-year-old Julio Ramirez was found dead in the back of a taxi an hour after he was seen leaving the Ritz Bar and Lounge with 3 unidentified men, something his friends say was out of character.
To get into a cab with a bunch of strangers to just give away his phone, potentially, give away his belongings, it's just not like him.
About a month later, 33-year-old Umberger was found dead after he and 2 unidentified men left another popular Hell's Kitchen gay bar, The Q. His mother, Linda Clary, telling our New York station that detectives are looking at 14 victims with similar stories who survived, as well as other deaths.
There is definitely a system of being drugged, whether it's through drinking something or needles or whatever, that renders the person immobile to protest from being taken advantage of, and it wipes out your memory.
Clary says her son's cell phone and credit cards were stolen, with more than $25,000 wiped from his bank accounts. Much like Ramirez, whose family says $20,000 was taken out of his accounts.
They seem to clearly target young gay men.
The NYPD said the city's medical examiner is still determining Ramirez and Umberger's official causes of death, adding that some, though not all, of the victims in the investigation are believed to be part of the LGBTQ community, which is causing concern and fear from Hell's Kitchen residents and visitors alike.
I think it's something that's important these days, at least to somebody, let somebody know that you're out, or, this is where I'm headed, so somebody, at least knows your whereabouts.
These should be the spaces where everybody feels the safest going, but especially LGBT people. And to have something so tragic like this happen, it's awful. It makes me feel I should be very careful who I trust, which is unfortunate. You want to be open in these communities. You don't want to feel you have to be careful and mistrusting.
But for those who've continued to push for justice, this might be the start of finally getting some answers. Now, as the NYPD continues to search for the suspects involved, the city council member who represents that neighborhood, Hell's Kitchen, just posted on Instagram that a group will be heading out tonight to hand out safety tip flyers at LGBTQ bars in the area. Coming up next, the new lawsuit involving some of the biggest celebrities in the world. Why Tom Brady, Steph Curry, and Larry David were named in a class action suit involving a controversial cryptocurrency. The details when we come back. We're back now with Top Stories newsfeed, and we begin with the latest on that deadly shooting at the University of Virginia. 22-year-old Christopher Darnell Jones made his first court appearance on second-degree murder charges. Prosecutors accused him of targeting specific people when he shot and killed 3 football players on a bus returning from a field trip. Classes resumed at UVA today. Now to the home explosion caught on camera in Indiana. A doorbell camera captured the moment the home in Princeton erupted into a fireball. According to tenants, a maintenance man was trying to get a heater to work when the blast happened. At least 2 people are hospitalized. Fire investigators determined the cause to be a natural gas explosion. Now, several celebrities were named in a class action lawsuit involving embattled crypto platform FTX. The lawsuit alleges the company and its CEO violated Florida law, misled customers, and cost them, get this, $11 billion in damages. Tom Brady, Steph Curry, and Larry David are among stars named for promoting the platform. Last week, FTX filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, and the CEO stepped down. Now, Mr. Beast is the most followed YouTuber. The content creator, whose real name is Jimmy Donaldson, gained his 112th million subscriber this month. He knocks out Swedish creator PewDiePie out of the top spot after nearly 10 years. Now, Mr. Beast is known for his videos featuring huge cash giveaways, prizes, charity work. He's done a lot of climate change work, too, so that's pretty cool. Turning now to a worsening doctor shortage across the country. Physicians who provide primary care, including pediatricians, are now the hardest to find. The problem is only expected to get worse if it's not addressed. And as Nyala Charles reports, it's already having significant impacts.
Across the country, a growing crisis.
Hi, I was wondering if I could sign up for a primary care physician.
People are struggling to find a primary care doctor.
It's disheartening.
In Los Angeles, Max Tompkins has been looking for a year, and he's not alone. The Health Resources and Services Administration saying the nation is more than 17,000 primary care physicians short. The number projected to grow up to 48,000 by 2034.
So, Max, you're 23 years old. Why is it important for you to establish that health care now?
I want to be the healthiest version of me that I can be.
He doesn't have a car, so he needs a doctor that's close.
Thank you so much for your time.
But no luck. In Vermont, Britt Williams endures long COVID symptoms. She tweeted about them. They include getting sick often, memory loss, and general exhaustion. She can't find a primary care doctor.
I have expended countless hours and lots of energy.
An asthma condition makes her breathing problems even worse. She spent months suffering, unable to get the care she needed.
I find that in healthcare, if we are reactive instead of proactive, that's often the difference between life and death.
A rabies scare even forcing her to the emergency room, putting a strain on her health and her pocketbook.
I have a $1,100 medical bill that I have to pay, which for many Americans would be way out of reach and something that they're not able to take care of. PCP's primary care physicians are a person's first call when they get sick. But the AAMC says there's a severe shortage in America, making them the hardest doctors to find.
Inside urgent care facilities, more and more patients are coming in because they can't get an appointment with a PCP.
Their longer-term issues probably not getting dealt with.
No state is meeting the primary care need. The hardest hit, rural and minority areas.
It's inequitable, it's unfair, it's unjust.
A growing and aging population is surging demand, and doctors are retiring, some early because of pandemic burnout.
How dire is it?
It's a very scary human story, and we are very concerned about it.
A study in family medicine found most med school graduates don't become primary care physicians, opting for higher paying specialties instead. Dr. Enrique Gonzalez is a PCP. At his practice, the demand is overwhelming.
All day patients,
okay.
Yeah.
But he can't find more PCPs to hire.
It's a paradox because on one hand, there's a great need, but on the other hand, the availability is not there.
In 2015, he decided to only see older patients to improve quality of care.
Why is primary care so important?
It's a first line of defense.
So primary care physicians can save lives.
Yes, yes.
The AAMC is hoping to increase financial incentives for PCPs.
I definitely think that we are continuing to look at first-generation medical students and looking at, low-cost loan programs, scholarship programs, and other things. Primary care providers are getting a little bit more reimbursement than they were.
And as for Max, he's still waiting.
I'm leaving a voicemail to see if I can sign up for a primary care physician.
Hoping one day he will find a doctor.
Nyala joins us now live. Nyala, what is the federal government doing, if anything, to address this problem?
Savannah, there are a record number of med school students, but not enough training programs for all of them once they graduate. That training is required for them to practice. Last year, Congress funded 1,000 new residency training programs over the course of 5 years. But the AAMC says the country needs 14 times that amount. And even with that increase, there's still the issue of most med school graduates not entering primary care. So that still needs to be addressed, too. Savannah?
All right, Nyala, thank you so much. Now, while Americans navigate this doctor shortage, hospital beds are filling up, as we've been talking about. The country is facing that viral triple threat, or triple-demic, RSV, flu, and COVID. Rising cases across the board threaten to overwhelm the nation's already fragile healthcare system, and it's putting hospitals on high alert as we head into the holidays. NBC News medical correspondent Dr. John Torres joins us now. He's here in studio with us, lucky for us. Hi, Dr. John, great to have you here with us.
Great to be here.
Okay, I mean, first of all, that is concerning. concerning. Primary care doctor shortage is something I don't think we're talking about enough, but this triple-demic is something because it's so important, and some of these numbers are startling. Let's talk about these two very vulnerable populations, the youngest and the oldest among us. Pediatric bed occupancy reached 76% today, and then with RSV hospitalization rate for seniors, it's 10 times higher than usual for this point in the year. I mean, just how concerning is that, and how much worse is it than we're used to?
And Savannah, the concerning part is these things usually don't peak until December, January, February timeframe. We're in November right now. They've been peaking for the last month or so. So we don't know if this is going to continue and the slope's going to keep going up and we're going to be looking at this through February, or if it's going to peak early and come down, which is what we hope happens. But we simply don't know because the virus is going to do, or the viruses are going to do what the viruses do. And so, it's behooving, I think, on all of us to protect ourselves, the things we've been doing for the last couple of years to make sure we stay safe. But you're right. I think the thing that kind of gets lost in the message is, yes, we talk about RSV and the young children, but it's the elderly who also are affected by it, and they're the ones that tend to be the most number of fatalities from it as well.
And of course, the thing that's concerning, we're heading into the holiday season, we're heading into winter, we're all going to be together indoors with these people that we love. Some are old, some are young. Where are we at with COVID? I think in a lot of ways we're all feeling, positive, like, oh, is it kind of over? Are we back to normal? We're eating indoors even as it's becoming winter. But the fact of the matter is that 316 people on average are still dying because of COVID every day. What's your outlook about where we're at right now with COVID specifically?
So what's happening is it's around 300 to 400 are dying every day, and that's been going on for the last couple of months. We're between 30 and 40,000 cases a day. That's been going on for the last couple of months, and it simply hasn't come down, and we're seeing in some parts of the country that starting to go up again, COVID cases. We don't think it's going to repeat nearly what happened last year or the year before, but at the same time, we have been talking about a winter surge of COVID, and so we need to be ready for that as well. And like you mentioned, the hospitals are overwhelmed. There aren't as many doctors and nurses working as there were before, partly because of the pandemic, partly for a variety of other reasons, and so the staffing is an issue as well. And so if we overwhelm those hospitals, that means that getting the other care we need, emergency care, surgeries, those types of things could be delayed as well, and that could certainly cause some issues down the road.
And our healthcare professionals who have hung on for this whole thing since 2020, I mean, we just give it up to them. It's incredible. All right, we talk about this a lot. I know we're supposed to be washing our hands, but tell us other tips. Are we supposed to be masking up again indoors if we're concerned about grandma or grandpa, something like that, especially when we're all getting together for Thanksgiving next week?
And so by far, the biggest thing you can do is get vaccinated, and it's not too late. Even if you get vaccinated tomorrow, you're still going to have you're going to have a week before Thanksgiving and many weeks before the other holidays come into effect, and so you can be protected for flu and COVID, the things we can get vaccinated for. But the other thing I'm telling people is, this is time to be with family. This is time to enjoy the holidays, but at the same time, do it with safety in mind. And so don't necessarily need a mask. If you can open a window, it's warm enough, certainly do that. But know who the company you're keeping is. And if it's somebody you trust and somebody your parents, your siblings, that you know what their status is, whether they're sick or not, then that's okay. Go ahead and do that. But if you're in stranger environments, especially if it's crowded, think about masking, especially if there's smaller kids, with RSV being an issue, the passing around the baby, which everybody loves to hold a baby and kiss the baby. Maybe not do that this time unless it's somebody very close to you. And by all means, the biggest message I can give, if you're sick, stay home.
Yeah, definitely. That's especially even if you're testing for COVID and you're negative, right? Because there's all these other things going on.
RSV, a cold, whatever.
Absolutely.
If you're sick, stay home.
All right, Dr. John Torres, thank you so much. Important info there, especially for Thanksgiving next week. Now to top stories, Global Watch. And disgraced actor Kevin Spacey is facing 7 new sex crime charges in the UK. The sexual assault charges are tied to alleged incidents between 2001 and 2004. He's now facing a total of 12 sex crime charges in the UK after pleading not guilty to 5 other counts earlier this year. That trial is set to begin next June. Now to an update on those deadly police clashes in Bolivia. New video shows authorities using tear gas on protesters in Santa Cruz as demonstrators shot fireworks in the streets. The unrest, now in its 4th week, sparked after the country's government delayed a census there. Now, the census impacts federal funding and seats in Congress for each province. And a sustainably sourced sculpture was unveiled in Doha as athletes begin arriving in Qatar for the World Cup. The sculpture, named The Greatest Goal, was made with recycled steel mesh. It's held together with more than 70,000 weld points. Now, the World Cup kicks off this Sunday. Very exciting. Some Taylor Swift fans are still trying to shake it off after Ticketmaster crashed yesterday. Millions of fans swarmed the ticketing site after pre-sale tickets went on sale for Swift's first tour since 2018. But now, after hours-long waits, technical issues with the site, and pre-sale code glitches, there's some bad blood between fans and Ticketmaster. I want to bring in entertainment journalist Brian Balthazar to help us break this all down. Now, Brian, you may have confused that crying person with me, but I assure you it wasn't me, though I was trying for several cities myself. This happened yesterday. Also, today was impacted when they moved some of the pre-sales to today. Walk us through just what happened here and how bad it was.
Okay, so now for weeks, people have been singing that line, "I'm the problem, it's me." Well, yesterday, Ticketmaster was the problem, it's Ticketmaster, at least according to these Swift fans. And this was a program that's supposed to help big fans. It's called the Verified Fan Program on Ticketmaster. And this is a chance for Swifties to, or fans of any artist, to register in advance just for a spot in line. It doesn't guarantee they're going to get it. It doesn't guarantee they're going to get tickets, but they pre-register to get in line for these tickets. And yesterday at 10 a.m. Eastern was the day the gates would open, but this time what happened was, as you mentioned, people were waiting a queue for hours, sometimes getting booted out. Sometimes the website would go down altogether. And ironically, this is a program that's supposed to keep these tickets out of the hands of ticket resellers, some of these other competitors that jack up those prices. But unfortunately, they're already out there, and a lot of these verified fans are now kind of in the dark.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Brian, I want to ask you about that verified fan fact, because what's going on here also is people will get in and immediately they're being told there's no more left for pre-sale. Why not release more for real fans? If the idea is to keep it out of the hands of resellers, why save so much for when so many other people who don't necessarily care about an artist are then able to get into the system?
Right. Well, I mean, and I think that's why people are asking a lot of big questions. It's catching the eyes of Washington. Like, is this really fair practice? And the fact that Ticketmaster Live Nation doesn't have a major competitor to kind of level this playing field, they're kind of free to do it the way they want to do it. And more eyeballs, more and more criticism and scrutiny is going towards them right now. Now, what they did yesterday to try and kind of rectify some of the internet problems, which they're just saying is unprecedented interest, which, by the way, we should have expected because their top 10 Billboard songs are all Swift songs. They're saying that they decided to kind of delay the release of some of these tickets in batches. There was also a Capital One program where they could get pre-sale tickets, and that was moved till today. But it seems like there's not enough strategy and planning going into place when they know this is an artist that garners huge interest.
Absolutely. Ticketmaster actually has said, quote, "We are aware fans may be experiencing intermittent issues with the site and are urgently working to resolve." At what point, though, does this become a bigger problem? Because to your point, they were aware that there's interest, not to mention they sent out pre-sale codes and they know how many they sent out. So does the artist ever get upset here? Could this hurt Taylor Swift?
Well, it certainly can't. She can't be happy, obviously. Artists care very much. Taylor Swift in particular, we both know, is incredibly engaged with her fans. And we haven't heard from her on Instagram, TikTok, or Twitter in the past 24 hours. But, you know, the truth is their hands are a little bit tied because of the share of the marketplace that they have. And I'm sure they were given every assurance that they had it under control. And there's a certain suspension, like there's a certain trust that you have to have. But is Ticketmaster thinking of itself as a tech company as much as they are an entertainment company? Because this is a tech issue and they need to be prepared for this level of volume.
Thanks so much for watching Top Story. For Tom Llamas, I'm Savannah Sellers in New York. Stay right there, though. More News Now is on the way.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.